Hello everyone, I am Gunashekharan here. I welcome you all to my YouTube channel once again, and today we are going to look into a very important topic that is called drugs, so-called medicines. I am covering this particular topic in a chapter number 2. In chapter number 1, what we have seen was like in the topic of insight of pharmaceutical in virtue of industry, we have completely seen how the pharmaceuticals have emerged and its origin, evolution and everything. Okay, so let's go into the topic drugs and medicines. Why this particular topic is, see, when we are going to step into CGMP, GMP and quality systems, these are the basics. So as I said earlier, we have to create a very strong base and a foundation for you to make understand what is GMP and PQS and regulatory authorities and whatever it is. Okay, it's going to be very important for you all. Let's quickly go jump into the topic. Recap of chapter number 1, and then drugs and medicines. What are its types? What is called legal and illegal drugs, and then what is psychological effect and physiological effect it's going to create. Mechanism of action, what is the action after the intake of medicines, and then origin and evolution of drugs, how it has been originated and how the evolution that led every one of us to stand in this 21st century of medicines and drugs. And then different types of dosage forms. What are different types of drugs? There is a difference, different types of dosage forms, and here the different types of drugs. Hope you can understand. Anyway, I'll clarify it and we'll go into detail in my slide. And what are drug classifications? Once again, as usual, we are going to review the chapter number 2. So recap of chapter number 1. What we learned in chapter number 1, what are pharmaceuticals, origin and evolution, alchemy, alchemist role, modern era of pharmaceuticals, drug discovery process, chemical biology, and drugs. And in continuation to that, what we are going to see today is drugs, also called medicines. What is the difference and how this has been derived? So these are the things we are going to cover in this today's topic. What are drugs? A word emerged from a French word drug called dry herb. So previously, if you just see in the ancient period, humans are survived in this natural drugs and medicines. What are drugs and what are medicines? What is the basic difference between drugs and medicines? Why the terminology differs and how it has been derived? Okay, so a word drug being emerged from a French word called drug, D-R-O-G-U-E. Dry herb. The meaning of drug is dry herb. So it clearly states that in an ancient period, humans are highly dependent on natural availability. That is, even if they fall in a sickness or ill, they are highly dependent on a natural resources. Obviously, in this particular one, the human were highly dependent on dry herbs, and earlier drugs were taken from plant sources. That's what it clearly states, and this is an example for it. And then what are drugs and what are medicines? So the term drug is a neutral term, okay, and it does not specify that the substance used for therapeutic, recreational or habitually, that is which causes a physiological and psychological effect in the body. What is therapeutic? Everyone knows it's been used for a treatment, and recreational drugs or drugs have been highly used by people for the purpose of enjoyment and leisure rather than for a medical purposes. So that the term legal and illegal is being differentiated. Physiological effect is the one which caused by drug being consumed, that which interacts with the body's biological system including the nervous system and a circulatory system, and which can influence our blood pressure, body temperature or body functionality and heart rate, anything related to our internal system, called physiological effect. What is psychological effect? Let's see what is psychological. Psychological effect on the body caused by the drug which highly influences our body systems, that is, which can alter the behavior, which can alter the mood, which can alter the perception, which can alter our cognition. Those are called physiological effect. And the term medicine carries a medical and therapeutic connotation. A meaning is a medical, everyone aware, and therapeutic is for a treatment or which alleviate the symptoms, okay, which used to treat diseases, and which also help to achieve a positive health outcome. Okay, drugs. And drugs can be derived from two sources. Either it should be natural or synthetic. Natural, as everyone aware, the drugs being derived from natural sources are nothing but plants, animals, minerals and microorganisms. Everyone know what is plant. Herbs means we derive from plants, and animals, yes, cod liver oil, those kind of stuff. Minerals like iron tablets, vitamins, etc., etc. And microorganism, obviously those are vaccines. And with respect to synthetic, if you just see, the drugs are highly manufactured or synthesized from a laboratory, that is only through chemical synthesis and entirely through chemical reactions, and which have a specific pharmacological effect in the body and which helps for therapeutic purposes. Mechanism of action. When we intake drugs, what happens and how that works, what is the functionality, that's what we are going to look into. So natural or synthetic drug involves an interaction between the drug and a target molecule. It goes and binds to the target molecules. It can be a specific receptor, enzymes or a biological pathway in the body, often for therapeutic and recreational purposes, and it interacts with the biological system to produce specific outcomes. Those are physiologically and psychologically, which we have seen in the previous slide. It causes a wide range of effects, including therapeutic, that is for treatment; medicinal, of course, it's for a treatment and alleviate symptoms; and psychoactive drugs, which we see. Psychoactive drugs, yes, we have seen that in psychological and physiological drug effects and harmful effects sometimes. That's where the differentiation comes in place. When we consume such drugs very often, it may cause some side effects and it may be harmful for the human. It may be harmful sometimes. An origin and evolution of drugs. In ancient times, medicinal plants and herbs are used to treat illness and injuries. So, if you just see, humans were highly dependent on natural resources to survive and sustain in their entire life till this synthetic drug come into place. There we live in called the modern era of science now. So people and humans were highly dependent on natural resources that are nothing but plants and herbs. A drug that is derived from a opium poppy plant, that are seeds, which when we cut it releases some latex kind of an chemical, which being highly used for pain relief and recreational purposes. There are some significant steps are followed to prepare that particular drug. Opiates such as morphine and codeine were later isolated from opium, and they are used as a potent painkillers. Alcohol and fermented beverages, everyone knows. During ancient periods, the fermentation process was highly used to prepare beer, wine, etc. And cocoa and cocaine, we can just listen to this term in many of the movies on a common platform, which causes a stimulant effect. And cocaine was later isolated from cocoa leaves, and in the 19th century, and it is been highly used as a medicinal stimulant. Marijuana and cannabis, these are being highly used, these both are highly used for medicinal and recreational purpose, and this comes under category of narcotic drugs. And in continuation to that, modern pharmacology, advancement in chemistry and pharmacology led to isolation of active compounds, and these are the things which help us to survive in today's world, and we are in that modern era of modern pharmacology. Especially if you just see aspirin and penicillin. Aspirin, most widely used pain reliever, and penicillin, the first ever antibiotic being discovered by Alexander Fleming in the year of 1928, and which led to a pathway for today's vaccines for all the diseases, and which also helps us to strengthen our immune system. Psychedelic drugs, potentially therapeutic and psychoactive effects studied for mental health treatments, commonly categorized as illegal. Modern pharmaceuticals, yes, many of the pharmaceutical companies are now available throughout the world who manufacture wide range of medicines for treating various diseases and conditions, and trying to help in improving the global health outcomes. Drug regulations, yes, of course, as we see in the previous chapter, government and international bodies have implemented regulations to control the manufacturing, distribution and usage of drugs. Especially they are working on, and their regulations aims are to ensure the drug is safe for human consumption. And different dosage forms, yes, there are different types of dosage forms of medicines are available, that is in the form of tablets and capsules, which called oral, so orally it can be consumed. And dry syrups, of course, this comes in a powder form which can be reconstituted with water and then can be consumed. And then semi-solids are nothing but ointments. And liquid orals, yes, of course, it's a syrups, oral consumption. What are parenterals? Parenterals may either come in the form of a liquid or powder which can be reconstituted, and it can be consumed by a patient or human only through intravenous or intramuscular. Parenteral administration will allow the drug to quickly enter into the bloodstream, and it comes in two forms, that is SVP and LVP, that is small volume parenterals and large volume parenterals. And different types of drugs, what are different types of drugs available in the market? Analgesics, it's a pain reliever, it's categorized into non-opioid and opioids. Antibiotics to treat bacterial infections, antiviral drugs to treat viral infections like rabies, flu, etc. Antifungal drugs to treat fungal infections, antipsychotic drugs and neuroleptics drugs to treat schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Anti-hypersensitives that lower blood pressure and manage hypertension. Anticoagulants to prevent blood clot formation. Antiplatelets prevents platelets from sticking together. Immunosuppressants suppress the immune system activity sometimes during the autoimmune disorder. Bronchodilators relax the muscle around the airways. Diuretics, drug increases urine production. Hormones regulate various bodily functions. Antiemetics used to control nausea and vomiting. Antihistamines block the effects of histamine, especially allergic. Antacids, proton pump inhibitors, reduce stomach acid production, especially for peptic ulcer. Cholesterol lowering drugs, drug helps to lower cholesterol levels. Statins, immunizations, stimulate the immune system to build immunity against specific diseases. Example, chickenpox. Drug classification. How the drug being broadly classified? So if you just see prescription drugs are the drugs dispensed to the patients and administered to the patient only upon receiving a valid prescription from a licensed healthcare professional and a medical practitioner. So this particular drug only to be consumed for the therapeutic purposes under the monitoring and the prescription of medical practitioner. Over the counter drugs, shortly called OTC drugs, where you can step into pharmacy and you can procure the drug without any prescription. Generic drugs are identical and equivalent version of a brand name drugs which have the same effect of the brand drugs. I will let you know what it is. Brand name drugs are the drugs which has been developed, patented and marketed by an innovator. So it's also called an innovator drug. So, and I'm just preparing a separate chapter on this particular topic of generic drugs and brand name drugs. So, which is our next chapter number 3. I will just explain in detail about all these stuffs. Controlled substances. These are the drugs have a high potential for abuse or dependence, which has been highly regulated by government authorities. Vaccines, as everyone aware, the vaccines are drugs which used to stimulate the immune system and prevent infectious diseases highly derived from microorganisms or viral. Biologics, yes, biologic drugs are derived from a living organism such as proteins, antibodies, which used to treat various diseases including autoimmune disorders and cancers. Let me summarize in this way. All medicines are drugs, but not all the drugs are medicines. Hope everyone can understand this, and what we have studied today is what are drugs, difference between drugs and medicines, how the drug influences human body both the ways, physiologically and psychologically. Origin and evolution, different dosage forms, types of drugs, and classification of. Now you may have a question that why I have to look into these topics, why I have to study these topics. Yes, when you are going to look into CGMP, PQS, regulatory bodies and everything, these are the basics. If you just understand these basics, then only it will be helpful for you to understand those topics. Those are very typical topics for students, and as I informed, yes, the next chapter is going to be brand drugs and generic drugs. Okay, thank you. Let's catch up in the next topic very shortly. Stay tuned. Thank you everyone.